guys? Iridite here, back with another video. And you are catching me at the beginning of my work day. It's early in the morning. It's around 7 right now. I've been up for about an hour. And I'm getting unloaded here at a consignee that I parked up at last night. We're at a huge lumber yard. And I'm not exactly sure what that dry van's gonna be delivering, but I got this lumber here. Lumber everywhere, and I should be unloaded soon. But I'm gonna bring you guys along for one of my standard work days. I'm not sure exactly what's gonna be coming today, but I'll show you guys what a day in the life of a flatbed trucker looks like on the regional side. All right guys, like I said, with my day just getting started, I'm getting unloaded at this consignee. I got parked up here last night. Got here actually pretty early yesterday, around 5 p.m. So very early end of my day yesterday, which is what I like. The benefit of that is that I'm going to be the first one getting unloaded here, as well as being able to put in my empty pretty early in the morning, which is what you want doing this, because you're first on the load board. You're going to get the choice cuts, assuming that you have all the hours on your clock like I do. I have a full 14-hour clock right now, so I'll be up to getting the better higher paying loads that are going to be available today in my area. Something you always want to go for if you can. You know, you're not always going to be able to have a full clock, and you're not always going to be able to park up at your consignee the day before. It's not always going to happen, but when you can make it that possibility, definitely do it. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up all these straps using my Bumblebee strap winder that I love so much. I'm going to leave a link in the description below for this. This is some of the best money that I've ever spent on a tool since I've been out here flatbedding. I've had this thing the entire time that I've been out here on the road, and it saves me so much time rolling up these straps so fast. I've done a video on it in the past, and I'll leave a link to that down below as well if you want to see my review of it. But just showing you guys how fast it is. It's like you can wrap a strap up in like 4 seconds with this thing. It always rolls the straps up super nicely, very clean. The thing's always great, especially like in the wintertime. You don't have to spend all this time with the manual hand crank freezing your fingertips out there. You can just put it in the strap winder, press the trigger on the drill, roll it up, you're done. But I'm gonna go ahead and roll all these up so I can get unloaded and hopefully get out of here pretty soon. I'm gonna be waiting a little bit just because my fleet manager is on Central Standard Time and I'm on Eastern, so there'll be a bit of an hour delay. I should probably have a new dispatch within the next hour to hour and a half. Simple as that. Like I said, anything out here, these tools save me time. Anything that can save me time on my job or not have me working as hard is always going to be a-okay in my book as far as tools go. Okay, now I'm all done with the unsecurement of the load. Aside from my dunnage that I have under here, I believe it's like 8 pieces of dunnage underneath the load. So now I just got to sit and wait for the unloader to actually come over here and take this freight off. Now at this part of my day, when I'm sitting around waiting on someone else to do something, this is usually when I would be preparing my breakfast for myself, and sometimes I prepare my lunch as well to save myself a little bit of time later on in the day, and I'll just have that stuff made up and sitting aside in my cooler or cooking in the microwave or whatever I need to do to it. And I'll be making phone calls, you know, to friends or family, or taking care of emails or other business that I have to deal with. Always trying to make use of my time. I don't really go back to sleep or take naps when I'm waiting for this, just because, you know, the way my body is, you know, once I wake up for the day, I'm up. you know, until it's time to go to bed for the most part. Now, if this were a scenario where, you know, I didn't have a full clock left over, I'm still waiting for my 10-hour reset to be completed, because sometimes that happens. If I had, you know, like a couple hours or who knows how much left over that I had to sit around and wait anyway, then I would find somewhere to go ahead and park, take a break, and nap. Now, this consignee that I'm delivering to, this is probably one of the most perfect types of consignees to deliver to, and I'll tell you why. First off, it's a consignee that has on-site parking. That's great, because if I have enough hours, once I've been loaded and I have finished securing at the shipper, if I have enough hours to drive all the way to the consignee and deliver, ideally that is what you want to do, for the reasons that I espoused upon earlier. You know, you'll be able to get here first thing in the morning, or you'll already be here. You'll be able to get unloaded before anybody else shows up. You'll be able to put in your empty so you can get dispatched on something new when the better paying loads are first dropped in the morning. You'll have a full clock, and that will save you time and help you be more efficient for your following workday. Now, aside from that, this place also has plenty of space to park. Sometimes you'll have places that say they have on-site parking, and it'll be just a driveway with just enough space to fit one truck or two trucks. I've been to places like that that say they have on-site parking, and it's like just a narrow strip that barely gets you off the road. I hate when that happens. But this place, I parked right there next to that building, and you can see that is a huge amount of space back there with all those trailers. It's like 3 rows worth of space from here, the end of that building, all the way to the lumber before the fence line. So if I needed to, say like they get done unloading me and I don't have a new dispatch yet, I can just park the truck right back where I was. I'm not going to be in anybody's way. I'm not going to be impeding the flow of traffic for this business, and they are extremely unlikely to ask me to move or leave their lot. Use this time to go ahead and make some food and kind of plan out my day as much as I can as far as what I'm able to control. I don't know what I'm going to be picking up next. I am in the South right now. I'm in South Carolina. And usually South Carolina, North Carolina, you're usually going to be picking up some lumber, at least for the company that I drive for right now. Going to be picking up lumber or plywood or something like that. Maybe every now and then you might get a coil, depending on what part of South Carolina you're in, or a load of beam steel. But I have to check and see what cities I'm close to. I'll go ahead and do that, you know, just a little bit of speculation. But I do not have a new dispatch yet, so we'll see if I'm correct. Once I actually get that, I'll let you guys know. All right, another thing that I will do while I'm waiting to be unloaded, or if I have a little bit of dead time, in addition to preparing my food and getting ready for the day, of course, you fit in your pre-trip. You want to go ahead and check everything. And I usually do this before I even check in with the consignee, because I usually get up and ready before they start. Like, say a consignee is listed as having their start time at 7 o'clock, I'll usually be up by 6:30 a.m. and I'll already have done my pre-trip first thing before I even check in with them, just to make sure, you know, I'm all set for the day, because I don't want to put in my empty with dispatch if there's something wrong with the truck. I want to get that addressed first, because you don't want to get out there on the road driving on the highway and all of a sudden you have a problem and you're stuck and your clock has already been started and you're just counting down time being wasted, because you don't know how long it's going to take to go to a repair shop or have a repair technician drive out to you. So you want to eliminate anything that's going to have you wasting time during the day. So, you know, the standard pre-trip stuff, guys: checking your fluids, checking your oil, windshield washer fluid, check your antifreeze, all the standard stuff that you would do, that you should know how to do if you've already passed the DOT exams to get your CDL. But I'm always looking for the major things and the small things. You want to make sure that there's no leaks underneath the truck. Check the levels of your fluid, like I said already. Check your fuel filter. You know, just make sure that there's nothing out of whack. You know, checking all your lights, making sure that everything that's supposed to be illuminated is, everything that's supposed to blink is. Check your tire pressure. I know that can be tedious because there's so many tires on the truck, you know, the 18-wheeler. Some guys use a tire thumper, but a tire thumper is not going to tell you what the PSI is. It'll only let you know if it is really low because of the difference of the sound. So make sure that you always have your actual tire pressure gauge and you're checking that, you know, on a regular basis. Guys, you know, you should be checking it every day, but I know how that is. Everybody's not always going to do that, but you'll save yourself time. You know, you don't want to pull into a DOT scale and, you know, have them say your tire pressure is low, because they have monitors on those scales that check the heat and the pressure. I don't know if it checks the pressure, but it can see the heat. I don't know if it's an infrared scale. I can't remember exactly how it was explained to me, but they can see if your tire pressure is much lower than it needs to be, and they will pull you around back for an inspection on that. You don't want to have to deal with those problems. If they inspect one thing, they pull you over, that gives them an excuse to check everything else. That's why it's important to check and do your pre-trip so you can catch something and you can get it fixed, versus having DOT check it, have you get it fixed anyway, and possibly put points on your license or charge you a fine or give you a citation that you have to deal with. It's much easier to do things yourself than to have somebody else tell you or force you to do them. So doing all that, checking my tires in between my duals on the tractor and the trailer, making sure there's no debris, no rocks or anything stuck in between them. Because if you have, say, like you've gone to a job site, which I do on a regular basis, and say you get a piece of concrete wedged between here, if you don't see that and you drive down the highway, you know, really, you probably don't even have to be going that fast, but you're going like 50, 60 miles an hour, or even just on a city road, you have a piece of concrete stuck between here. With these tires spinning like that, this has basically just become a huge catapult. And if that piece of concrete or whatever comes dislodged and goes flying back, you know, that can go straight through somebody's windshield or hit a pedestrian, or it could be really bad, which is part of the reason why making sure your mud flaps are intact and not missing is really important to stop things like that, aside from water and mud and dirt splashing back. So you always want to check all that stuff. Don't rest on your laurels, guys. I know how this job can be when you've been doing it for a while. You know, it just becomes another day in the life, but don't be complacent, because, you know, that kind of thing can come back to bite you if you just slide into that. But got all the mud flaps, so like I said, I'm just checking everything, and it doesn't take that long, especially when you've been doing it for a while. You have a system built up to check everything in an efficient way. All the mud flaps are there. This trailer is kind of beat up. As you can see, some of those mud flaps are kind of bent, so whoever had this before me, you know, they put it through the ringer apparently, or they had some blowouts. That's usually what can happen if you have a tire that's blown out. You know, the air pressure from the tire blowing can jack up the mud flaps or bend the metal a little bit. I've seen that. I've had it happen to me where I've had the rear lights on the trailer get damaged when a rear dual tire has blown. But everything's looking good. Everything's blinking, and you know, you always want to crank the truck up, make sure that your air pressure builds up properly. Make sure that you don't have any derate messages popping up or anything, no indicator lights that let you know that something's wrong. Checking your airline connections, making sure that those are not having any like air leaks come through. And up, hold on. We gotta take a quick break on that, guys. I gotta go check into that office right over there and have them check in my paperwork, and I'll be right back with you guys to finish that off. Okay, we're all emptied out here. I wasn't able to get any of that footage because in the short 5 minutes that I was in there getting that paperwork dealt with, the operator cleared off the trailer entirely, which is a good thing. I definitely would rather have them get it done quickly than for me to be sitting around for, you know, an hour waiting to get unloaded. I've unfortunately had to deal with that in the past. But last thing I got to do here is put away my dunnage, secure that. But back on the line of the pre-trip, one of the most important things that you can do, or that I do while I'm doing my pre-trip every day, is you want to check your fifth wheel connection. And I've mentioned this in previous videos, but check that locking lever, make sure it's secured, but don't trust that solely. Always get under the trailer, flashlight, make sure those locking jaws are secured around the kingpin, the shank, and all of that. And I always finish that off by doing my tug tests. I tug test literally every single day that I drive the truck. I do a tug test every morning, regardless of what I see. You know, I'll see that the kingpin is locked, you know, locking jaws, the locking lever is in the proper place, but I tug test 100% of the time, every day, every morning before I pull that truck out, because you never know. I've never had anybody try to pull my pin or anything anywhere, but you never know, you know, you never know. And you know, any machine can malfunction, so you always want to check everything before you go out there on the road. You don't want to have your trailer come slamming down on you as soon as you try to pull out or make a turn or something like that. But I'm gonna go ahead and put my dunnage away, guys. It's about 7:50 a.m. right now. I don't have a new dispatch yet, but like I told you guys, my fleet manager is on Central Standard Time, and so for him it is like 6:50, so they should be getting the loads within the next, you know, 30 to 45 minutes or something like that. I would imagine I should be dispatched on something, but I will check in with you guys once that is the case. All right, guys, it's about 9:30 right now. I just got dispatched a few minutes ago, and I'm gonna be picking up a drop lot load from TMC's yard. And the drop lot loads are basically, for this particular spot, you know, they're lumber loads that the dedicated guys pick up from a shipper and bring back to the TMC drop lots, and the line haul guys will take those loads and deliver them the final mile. So I have 90 bounce miles to go pick this load up. It's gonna take me about 2 hours, I think, a little bit over 2 hours to get to it. And from there it's over 400 miles, like 493 miles to go deliver it. So I'm thinking about a 10-hour full trip for this, between the bounce and the actual delivery miles. So we're going to be in South Carolina to go pick up from the drop lot, and delivering to West Virginia. And I do not like going to West Virginia, primarily because you know, the parking situation in that state is not very good. There's a lot of hills and mountains. You know, you can lose a little bit of time traveling up those hills. But I mean, I've done it at this point dozens and dozens and dozens of times, so I'm used to it. Also, with it being a little bit later in the morning, you know, like I guess mid-morning technically, you know, I still got 2 hours, so it's going to be, you know, around 11:30 or so, maybe close to 12, depending on how traffic is. By the time I actually get to the drop lot, then I just got to drop my empty trailer, hook up to the dropped trailer that's loaded. But the good thing about those is they are completely secured by the time you get them. They're already tarped, they're already strapped. All you have to do is just verify that the securement is on correctly and that everything is bungeed how it needs to be. But I have never had to make adjustments to any of those dropped loads, those drop trailers from that yard. Anytime that I've ever had to do it, I just check it, make sure everything's right, do a pre-trip on the trailer, I hook up and go. I've never had one of those things be in bad condition, fortunately. I wish all dropping hooks were like that, you know, especially when you go to certain shippers where you have to do all the securement yourself, but that's neither here nor there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and pre-trip. I've already done part of it as far as seeing how far the route is and where I need to go. I want to pre-trip before I leave, kind of get a general look at the area where I'm delivering to, because there is no parking at this consignee, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to find somewhere to stop short and park for the night. Getting this load a little bit later, getting to it a little bit later in the day, by the time I'll be able to pick up and actually drive away with it, you know, it could be a bit later on. Well, for sure it's gonna be a bit later on in the day or in the evening when I stop. So I'm gonna have to think, you know, I'm gonna have to park somewhere that's gonna have enough available spots by the time that I get there, because, you know, other drivers are gonna be parking earlier, so you don't want to stop somewhere that's only got like 20 available parking spaces, unless, you know, you're gonna pay for parking. I prefer not to pay for parking. You know, I pride myself on not paying for parking. I've always been able to find free, legal options. You know, I'm not parking out there somewhere crazy or dangerous. I always park in spots or in rest areas or lots, wherever. You don't have to worry about DOT or somebody crashing into you. But then again, people crash into you at the truck stops. I've seen it happen before, unfortunately. But aside from that, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I'm going to go ahead and log my pre-trip, because I have not had to do that yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and head out, and I will catch up with you guys at the drop lot. Okay, just made it to the drop lot here to pick up this new trailer here, this preload. And as you guys can see, the preloads look good. As I mentioned previously, it's already tarped, already strapped. All I got to do is drop and hook, you know, drop my empty here, take all of my stuff off of this trailer, you know, my dunnage, anything that's in my side box, and transfer it over to the trailer that I'm taking, and I can leave. Now, it's hot out here today. It's really hot. It's as you can see there, 92 degrees, and it rained last night, so it's humid on top of that. It does not feel great out here. That's just something you got to deal with, you know, the elements when you're a flatbed driver. We work outside every day, and you just got to be ready for it and just prepare yourself accordingly. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish doing this trailer swap. You know, usually it can take between you know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on how quickly you're moving. With the heat being what it is today, I'm not gonna overexert myself. You know, you always want to be careful. Heat stroke is a real thing. Heat exhaustion is a real thing. I've seen guys fall out from it before, pushing themselves way too hard. And I've got an 8-hour drive ahead of me, 8 or 8.5 hours. So, you know, I need duration today. I need endurance, whether or not I drive that full 8 hours. Well, I won't be driving the full 8 hours because, like I said, there's no on-site parking. So I need to be awake for at least, you know, six or 7 more hours, depending on where I find a place to park. But I'm gonna go ahead and knock this out, guys. And another thing, since I'm here, this is also the maintenance lot here for our load securement. So I have a couple of tarps. My last load that I had to use my tarps on, my steel tarps, was some jagged stuff that tore through or made a little puncture, a couple of punctures in my tarp, even though I had padded tarps underneath my tarp. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap out my damaged tarps for some fresh ones here, because that just makes sense and that's efficient. And then I will be right on up out of here with that, guys. Check on you in a bit. Okay, I'm finished with the trailer swap, and I had to change out of my shirt because it was soaked from the heat and humidity out here. But I'll show you guys what I've got now. As you can see, nicely boxed off. Probably plywood. I'm pretty sure that's what these usually are. I didn't have to do anything to it. I just checked the bungees, and I went around and checked each of the winches to check the strap tightness, and everything was fine on that. I got like one extra click on this one and then one on the other side. Other than that, everything was fine. Transferred my dunnage, stuff in the side box, pre-tripped the trailer. All the lights are blinking. As you can see, the lights are illuminated on it right now, and everything's fine. So also swapped out those tarps that I was telling you guys about. And what I always do is sorry guys, it's humid out here. Like I said, it's really uncomfortable. Only being out there for just those few seconds, I'm already sweating again. Very humid out here, 90 plus degrees, high humidity because it rained yesterday. But what I always do when I'm doing a trailer swap with a pre-plan, or I'm sorry, a preload, I always go through and check the securements on it. You know, just, you can never 100% trust anything that you didn't do yourself. I'm sure the guy who brought this here, they did a good job. Like I said, I only had to tighten something up a couple of times, which isn't a big deal, but you always want to make sure that the securement is up to your standards. Because if I take this load out on the road and say the load shifts, or the trailer is jacked up because, like, I don't know, there's like flat tire or a lights out or something like that, I can't say, well, I just got this trailer, the last guy who had it must have done it. Like, DOT is not going to want to listen to that, because you have the trailer in your possession right now, and you are responsible for it as soon as you leave that lot, whether it's a shipper or a consignee. And hold on, you guys, you got to bear with me. Look at this sweat. I got to crank on the AC in this truck immediately. or at least turn the fan on while I'm talking to you guys. Hopefully that doesn't distort the sound too much. I cannot endure that. Not comfortably anyway. But yeah, like I said, just want to make sure that everything's good, because once you leave with it, you are co-signing that it is in roadworthy, safe condition. So never leave yourself open to attack, guys. Always cover yourself. Make sure you're doing what you need to do. That's what I always do. It's part of my regular work day. But for the trip planning portion of what we got to do here, I already looked and saw what truck stops and rest areas are along my way. And from where I am here, I have 482 miles to drive to get to the Consinee. And there's going to be a bunch of rest areas, a bunch of truck stops along my way. And I already selected which one I'm gonna go to. Okay, there's a truck stop that's about 40 miles from where I need to deliver. There's like 2 or 3 truck stops that's beyond that, or like a truck stop in a rest area or something, but I want to stop and take a shower for tonight because I feel gross. I've been sweating all day, and I fuel up at Pilot, so I'm trip planning to stop at the truck stop that's 40 minutes away, and I don't care about having to drive 40 minutes in the morning to get rid of this load. You know, that's not a big deal in the grand scope of my 11 hours of total driving. That's nothing. I'm not planning on going home tomorrow because it's still the middle of the week, so I don't have to worry about conserving time for that. So all I got to do is deliver this and then have enough time for whatever load they're gonna dispatch me on next. And my fleet manager and the load planner, they pick the loads that they dispatch to me based off of how much time is available on my clock and where I am and where I need to be, like if I were going home. So with me not going home, that's not part of the consideration. They just need to give me something that's gonna have me in the radius to get me home on Friday. So definitely gonna stop for that and do a couple of load checks along the way, and then I will see you guys a little bit later on. But let me go ahead and do that with the rest area, or I'm sorry, the truck stop that I'm planning on going to. If I leave at this exact moment, I will arrive there right around 8 o'clock. So I would venture to say I'll get there between 8:30 and 9, factoring in load checks and if I need to stop for fuel or not. I've got half a tank, and like I said, I'm stopping at a Pilot. That's where the company that I work for, we fuel up there as well. So I have more than enough fuel for me to drive for 7 hours, you know, comfortably. And then I can fuel up when I get to the place I'm planning on parking tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead and head out that way, knock all that stuff out. Really, I can fuel up in the morning because my priority is going to be parking and securing a space when I get to this truck stop. So let me go ahead and get on the road, guys, and I will see you a little bit later on. All right, guys, we made it here. Not as far as I was originally planning to go. As you can see, it's a bit darker. It's evening time now. It's about 9. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's about 8:10 right now. I ended up stopping about an hour and 20 minutes short of where I was originally planning to stop. The Pilot that was going to be about 40 minutes away from the Consinee. Because when I'm trip planning, when I set my spots, you know, along the way, when I do my load checks, I'll get on Trucker Path and I'll see the status of the place that I'm planning to park at. You know, it'll tell you if there's many spots, some spots full, or if it's paid parking available only. And the place where I was planning to go was saying that there was only a few spots left. Now with the time, like, and that's like where I currently am right here, like an hour and 20 minutes away from it. So I was thinking by the time I get there, it's very likely that the spots will all be filled by when I'm already there. And then that particular area, there would not have been any other options available for me as far as parking goes. You know, so in a situation like that, I would have either had to backtrack to the closest truck stop or rest area that I had passed before I got there, or I would have had to, you know, do some creative parking in the lot or something like that. And For one, I just didn't have the time on my clock to really be messing around with that. The backtracking parts, because I have an hour and a half left on my clock right now, and I would have had about 10 minutes to spare, assuming I didn't run into any slowdowns in that final hour and 20 minutes to the truck stop. And I have an hour and 30 minutes available on my clock without me stopping for a 30-minute break. I didn't stop for any extra 30-minute breaks after I picked this load up. I have 2.5 hours on my clock, but if I had stopped and waited for 30 minutes, then I would have arrived, let me see, it would have been close to like 9:30, I think, by the time I got there. And I know for a fact that place that I was going to, the parking spaces would have all been filled up by 9:30, because this particular stretch of Virginia that I would have been going to, it does not have a lot of truck stops or rest areas that have a large quantity of parking spaces. So the place that I decided to stop at had the highest quantity of parking spots, and even with that, you know, this place is kind of filling up a little bit. I'm in Raphine, Virginia, and I'm at a Petro right now. There is a Pilot that's across the street, which is where I was originally at. I was going to stop there when I decided to cut my trip short, but that Pilot was already completely full, so I couldn't park over there. I'm playing around with the idea in my head of getting out of the truck and walking. It's probably like, I don't know, from where I'm sitting currently, it's probably like half a mile walking from here across the road to that Pilot to get my shower still. It's I still got energy, I could do that. But yeah, I mean, if I had waited, well, I already said that part. If I had waited, you know, the 30 minutes, you know, I might not have had a parking space. But sometimes those are the decisions that you have to make, and that's part of trip planning. I've driven through this area enough times to know what the parking situation is like at various truck stops along the way. You know, the rest areas going through here, there are not a lot of spaces going through there either. So, you know, I got to drive 2 hours to finish the route versus 40. So, you know, that hour and 20 minutes extra is not gonna hurt me. You know, I'm not trying to go home tomorrow. Like I said, it's the middle of the week, so I still got a few days left of just general working to do. So I'll just deal with that for today, and I'll just chill out. That's just part of driving over the road. And today has been relatively uneventful. Today was smooth. You know, aside from me having to wait for a little while longer than I was planning to get dispatched on my pickup for today. But that's just par for the course. And I'm not quite certain that I'm gonna continue this video, because like I was telling you guys in the beginning of this, I was trying to show you a day in the life of a flatbed driver, and you guys have seen my day from the beginning till the end. The only other thing that I would be doing for the end of my workday, I go around the truck and I do a post trip, and that's just to see if you know, if I can hear any air leaks coming from the tires. You know, I look at the load to see if my securement is loose, or if a tarp has like broken a bungee or something like that that I need to replace. Just the general small stuff, because I'd rather find that now, file a breakdown macro if I need to, and deal with all that while I'm sitting here doing my 10-hour break, versus finding out about it in the morning, costing myself time for tomorrow's work day, having to sit here or get routed to a repair shop to get something dealt with, you know, and all this other stuff that I do not want to deal with on any given day at all anyway. So well, also another thing, you know, this is the time, since it's hot outside right now, or this time of year, with it being the evening when I stop for the day, this is usually when I would go ahead and get my workout in, because I don't really work out in the mornings right now I don't. So I'll work out in the evening, because the sun has gone down and it's a lot cooler outside than it would be in the morning when the heat is starting to ramp up. Right now the heat is starting to wane off since the sun has gone down. So I'll get my workout in, fix my dinner, take my shower, you know, prepare some of my food for tomorrow to save me some time. You know, I do all those things to make my next workday smoother. You know, get on the phone, call people again if I need to, get on the phone with Mrs. Erudite, see how her day has gone. You know, there's all kinds of things, but that's usually how I wrap my day up, guys. So I want to go ahead and get to that. I appreciate you guys watching this. Hopefully this gave you guys a bit better insight, if you're not familiar with trucking already, as to what a typical day for a flatbedder can be. And like I said, this was a very smooth day. I didn't have anything crazy going on. I didn't get stuck in any traffic jams. I didn't have any major delays at a shipper. That stuff happens from time to time. But today was all good, aside from me not being able to drive as far as I wanted to end my day. But that can be made up for tomorrow. So I will see you guys in the next video. I appreciate you guys all watching. As always, make sure you are liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel if you have not already. Definitely like the video if you've been interested in it, because that will help put the video in a better spot in the YouTube algorithm to help spread this content to other people who this would benefit. And that's the reason why I make my videos anyway, guys, to help anybody out there have an easier time out here on the roads than I did myself when I first started. So like I said, I appreciate you all, and I'll catch you in the next video. Here it out.